Tyre Eden, I hope you're all well. It's very hard to talk to you. I don't see your shining faces. I will have to rely on the kirv levavis that we have every Sunday morning in Stolen to compensate for the richuk makayim. I should mention that we should continue to daven for Choylei Amma Yisrael who are struggling and some fighting for their lives. I was asked to mention in particular a devoted doctor of our neighbor, Dr. Rabbi Maskutz, who was little Remoisa Nefesh, who now is also fighting for his life. Please have in mind Ruvain Shmuel ben Chai Yisara, B'soich Shar Choylei Yisrael, and we should be zoichet to reunite, Bekara, all gesund to hate. As we always say, we have to be makatayv to Ergen Shirei Torah, Rabbi Bald, for continuing to keep the Eish HaTorah, the fire of Torah going. We hope it should be a schus for Klal Yisrael. Today's sugya is a davar be'itei ma'toiv. As we know this year, because Yomtov Pesach falls out on Thursday and Friday, we have Shabbos afterwards, and we have to make an Eiruv Tavshilin. And the question, of course, is, what should a person do if he forgot to make an Eiruv Tavshilin? Whether it's he's in shul, the daven mincha, Erev Yomtov, and he forgot. Is there any eitzah? Or the first day Yomtov he remembers, or worse yet, Friday afternoon he's about to put up a chalent and he realizes, what did I do? I didn't make an Eiruv Tavshilin. And as we'll see, we have close to 24 shaylas, Bez Hashem, all about the sugya of someone who forgot to make an Eiruv Tavshilin. Now what? So the emphasis, the Shulchan Aruch devotes a whole siman. I should mention today, the siman is Taf Kuv Chav Zayin, and it's noteworthy that 9 out of 24 of the seifim is regarding this sugya. So obviously it's a big sugya, and we'll try to at least touch upon the basics. As our derech always is to try to find somewhat of the yisoid, one yisoid, and build from there. Today we need basically background. That's the yisoid. What is the purpose of an Eiruv Tavshilin? Why can't I cook on Friday for Shabbos? I know it's Yomtiv, but then again Shabbos is even a greater kedusha. But to make a very long story short, which is actually a sugya for itself, the Gemara in Beya Daf Tezvav Amud Beis provides 2 reasons for this Eiruv Tavshilin, and hopefully once we know the reasons, we could glide through the rest of the sugya. First of all, I guess the main reason, that's what the Rambam seems to imply in the beginning of Perek Vav, is the reason of Kavod Yomtiv, as the Gemara calls it. Because Yomtiv is sometimes abused. Shabbos, everything stops, no malach is done, so we're safe. Yomtiv, you're allowed to do malachas, you're allowed to cook, you're allowed to bake, you're allowed to do anything for tzarech eichel nefesh. But that's only Yomtiv for that day. You can't prepare first day Yomtiv for the second day Yomtiv, and certainly not one day Yomtiv for Isru Chag. But sometimes a person thinks, well, it's Yomtiv, you're allowed to cook, what's the problem? So Chazal had to make a very powerful statement. We're going to ask the cooking on Friday. This year it's the second day Pesach, even for Shabbos. Shabbos has Kedusha, but we want to send you a message. Yomtiv is restricted and limited. You're allowed to cook only for that day. Even for Shabbos you're not allowed to cook. If you're making Eiruv Tavshilin, that's your pass to permit you to cook on Friday, Erev Shabbos, for Shabbos. So that's the reason of Kavod Yomtiv, to protect Shmiras Kedushas Yomtiv. The Gemara does provide a second reason, that's called Kavod Shabbos. Basically, people are focused on Simchas Yomtiv, will be very positive, and they might eat up all the food on Yomtiv and nothing remains for Shabbos. Particularly like this year, you have 2 days Yomtiv preceding Shabbos. There's a good chance you come into Shabbos with nothing much to eat. And that's a violation of Zochar Es Yom HaShabbos L'Katshai. Of course, it's an asmachta, but as the Gemara explains, we have to make sure that your mind is set on doing for Shabbos. So Chazal preempted the problem. Erev Yomtiv, again this year, Wednesday, Erev Yomtiv, you're going to make an Eiruv Tavshilin, which effectively is the beginning of your preparation for Shabbos. So once you're focused, your mindset is on Hachana for Shabbos, we are convinced that you will leave food for the Heilige Shabbos. So whether it's Kavod Shabbos or Kavod Yomtiv, the Shulchan Aruch makes it very clear that it's a mitzvah. This is in Siv Zayin. Mitzvah kol adam la'arev. And indeed, it's more than a mitzvah, it's a chiyuv. I should mention, as we'll see, based on a Gemara, if you didn't make an Eiruv Tavshilin, l'mashal this year, you're supposed to make it Wednesday afternoon. If a person didn't, then Friday afternoon of Erev Shabbos, he's not allowed to cook. So it's more than just a mitzvah, it's actually a issa if a person forgot to. Now you understand something else. And this year it's important to mention, an Eiruv Tavshilin is not an easy pass entirely. You're allowed to cook on Friday l'kavod Shabbos. Says the Shulchan Aruch that you're not allowed to cook on Thursday for Shabbos. Why not? And this is the Shulchan Aruch in Sif Yud Gimel. Says the Magen Avraham also in Sif Katan Yud Gimel. Two reasons. Because really the second day Yomtov is not a full Yomtov. So better on Friday to cook for Shabbos than Thursday. Also, Erev Shabbos, because this year Friday is a Shvus Kroiva. You're cooking on Friday, going into Shabbos. So two reasons that the Eiruv Tavshilin this year that we made on Wednesday only allows cooking on Friday, not on Thursday. Of course you're wondering, but what happens when Yom Tov falls on Friday and Shabbos? For example, Shavuos falls often on Thursday night, Friday, and Shabbos. Oh, so here we have a problem. Because it's not the Rabbanan, the Yom Tov Friday is the first day Yom Tov. But says the Sharatziyah, Mishnah Berurah says it as well. In that case, we don't have the first reason of second day Yom Tov being more kal, but we have the reason of Shvus Kroiva. So let me be very clear. The Eiruv Tavshilin helps only for Erev Shabbos. Generally, Erev Shabbos might be the second Yom Tov, second day Yom Tov, but even if Erev Shabbos is the first day Yom Tov, the Eiruv Tavshilin helps just for Friday. I saw an interesting discussion in the Kaf HaChaim, Sif Katan Pei Gimel. Some want to say when you make it on a situation, a scenario like this, when Friday and Shabbos is Yom Tov, so maybe you should include in the Eiruv Tavshilin, I'm preparing from one day Yom Tov to the next. In this case, it's Friday for Shabbos. He says, no, we don't want to do that, because that's going to be very misleading and confusing. Someone's going to end up cooking on Thursday for Friday, which is no good. So we just say the regular nussach when Yom Tov comes out on Friday and Shabbos. The next question is who has to make this Eiruv Tavshilin? So this is really part of a different sugya, but I wanted to make it brief because it's so much lamaisa. The Shulchan Aruch uses a lashon mitzvah to make an Eiruv Tavshilin, and every family should make an Eiruv Tavshilin. Now there are some people, particularly on Pesach, on Makbid, to cook all the food before Yom Tov. That's a chash of chametz, whatever it is, but let's say someone will ask you, I made all my food Erev Yom Tov. I'm not cooking Friday l'kavod Shabbos. Do I need an Eiruv Tavshilin? The answer is a resounding yes. First of all, you might want to cook more. Why should you be restricted? Number two, you're not going to serve cold cholent on Shabbos. You're going to have to rewarm that cooked cholent. No, that's also a bishul. Bishul davalach on Friday for Shabbos, you're cooking. Also, there's a discussion in the Shulchan Aruch Sif Yotes, if you're allowed to light neiros on Erev Shabbos for Shabbos, does Hadlakas neiros need an Eiruv Tavshilin? So even if you cooked Erev Yom Tov, you didn't light neiros on Erev Shabbos yet. And that's why the minig is every family makes an Eiruv Tavshilin. Again, you want to put up hot water l'kavod Shabbos. It reminds me of what the minig is to make an Erev Chatzeres with a bracha. Now what happens if the end of the day you didn't end up carrying with the Erev Chatzeres? Is it a bracha l'batala? Chas v'shalom. The Erev was effective, ready to use, and you didn't use it. But it wasn't an effort in futility. It was a mitzvah d'Rabbanan to give you leeway to be able to carry. And I think the same is true regarding the Eiruv Tavshilin. A family should have an Eiruv Tavshilin, and even if they don't end up doing anything, which is usually not the case, it would not be a bracha l'batala. And Baruch Hashem, I found the Chut Shani Amud Kuf Nun says this very analogy to the Erev Chatzeres. Now, if someone is fully convinced he won't do any preparation for Shabbos, no, maybe I think Rabbi says this also in Chelik Hey Chaf Chavav, you should make an Eiruv Tavshilin, but not make a bracha. Now, there's a big discussion, which is not the sugya for today, but if you have married children that move into their parents, or vice versa, parents move into children, and they're doing none of their own cooking, they're part of the family, the minig Yisrael seems to be that they're included in the Eruv of the Balabas, because that's like one big family, just like the single children are included. You don't need a kazayas to chol echad. It helps with the entire household. So married children or married parents, of course, obviously, married parents that move in would be included in the Eruv automatically. Some people are a little more mahader. They should have a kinyan in the Eiruv Tavshilin. But basically, we should say everybody should have an Eiruv Tavshilin unless you're mamish part and parcel of that household. The question, of course, is what happens if you forget to make an Eiruv Tavshilin? So, of course, the best eitzah is the refuah kaidamaka. Remember to make the Eiruv Tavshilin. Rabbi say this year we have an Eiruv Tavshilin and eitzah taiva kamashmalon. First, Erev Yomtov activity. This year, Wednesday, Habalenu L'Toiva. Next Wednesday, Habalenu L'Toiva. The first thing you do, Erev Yomtov, is make the Erev Tavshilin. There's a sign in your refrigerator. They put up a sign in shul. There's an announcement in the shul. Hopefully, be zeicha to all of that, Erev Yomtov. Listen to them. Go home before breakfast, if that exists, Erev Pesach. But before anything, make an Erev Tavshilin. Someone asked me, could he do it before davening? Because he goes from home to shul to work and comes home in the afternoon. He might forget. I told him, Avada, I think it's Pashut. Mishnah and Pei Tes, Sifkat Lamed Vav says you're allowed to go shopping Erev Shabbos before davening because Tzarchei Mitzvah are permitted before davening. So Erev Tavshilin is a mitzvah and Tzarchei Mitzvah. So if you're afraid you're going to forget when you come home from work late in the afternoon, do it even before davening. A tricky question, which is kedai to mention, let's say I don't want to wait till Wednesday. Can I do it Leil Erev Yomtov? This year, Yomtov, again, we make the Erev Tavshilin Wednesday, sometime Wednesday. Can I do it Tuesday evening? So the emes is a fundamental question, because that is, what is the status of an Erev Yomtov? And I'll explain. Regarding some halachos, Erev Yomtov is only the day, not at night. For example, there's an issa, some say it's an issa deraisa, do malacha after chatzos on Erev Pesach. I should mention that to remind you, this year Wednesday, all hair cutting and cutting nails should be done before chatzos. Because there's definitely an issa, whether it's derbanan or deraisa, to do malacha Erev Pesach after chatzos. The question is, does this apply Leil Erev Yomtov, Tuesday night? The answer is avada not. In fact, there's even a shayla if it applies before chatzos. So we see regarding some halachos, Erev Yomtov does not include Tuesday night. I'll give you a very nice mashal. There's a minig not to eat matzah, whether it's from Rosh Chodesh Nisan or some stuff from Purim, but there's an issa gomor midrabanan based on a Yishalmi at the beginning of the 10th parak in Pesachim of eating matzah on Erev Pesach. Very chomodik issa. So that, according to most poskim, besides the Magen Avram, that does not apply to Tuesday night. In fact, Reb Chaim was quoted as saying it's a raya from a Ferish Mishnah. The Mishnah, which we say in the Haggadah, every night we eat chametz and matzah. Really? How about Erev Pesach? So Reb Chaim was quoted as saying it's a raya that you're allowed to eat matzah on Leil Yudalad. The Issa, the Yishalmi's Issa Cham is only by day. So as we see, regarding some halachos, Erev Yomtov only starts by day. But then again, regarding Yomtov, the main mitzvah is at night. Sukkot by night is the main mitzvah, Pesach by night. So the question is regarding our sugya of achana, are you allowed to start the night, make the Erev Tavshilin the night before, and rely that's Erev Yomtov, or look at Hilchas Erev Yomtov and say no. Erev Yomtov is day, not the night before. So I think the answer is zil basa time, like we always say. Whether the reason is covered Shabbos or covered Yomtov, the main thing is when you're preparing for the Yomtov, remember the Shabbos, remember the Yomtov. So why does it have to be dafka by day? I mean, you didn't start preparing for Pesach days in advance, weeks in advance, but certainly people are preparing in full force Tuesday night. And that's why Rabbi Yashiv in a tshuva, and Mevakshei Torah in a short tshuva, Amud Reish Tezayin, says you're allowed to do the Erev Tavshilin even Erev Leil, Erev Yomtov this year, Tuesday night. Rav Sternbach in Vav Kuf Chabei says that since that's the minig that people prepare on Yomtov the night before, so that accomplishes, and it's the derech and it's nicker. Rav Vosden Chelik Tesim and Kuf Chav Tes, writes that, no, if he says, I think you can make it the night of Erev Yomtov, Tuesday night. Someone that's nervous, mishali by noikvai, if he's very nervous, so don't make a bracha, make it at night without a bracha, but his feeling is clear, you're allowed to make a bracha and make the Eruv on Tuesday night. I had a shaila, maybe it's an idea, if you're a little creative, make it Tuesday night without a bracha, and make it tonight. If I will remember to do it on Wednesday, I'll do it on Wednesday with the bracha. If I'll forget, then I'm going to rely on what I did Tuesday night. You'll say, where did you get such a thing to make it tonight for a mitzvah? And especially you're going to make a bracha Wednesday after you made it Tuesday night? So that we all know in Tough Pay Test, the Mechaber says you're allowed to count Sfira when you're at Suffolk Laila with the tonight. If I remember later, I'll make the bracha later. And I found the Ber Moshe in Dalet Mem Gimel regarding a different question. He talks about, can you make an Eiruv Tavshilin a few days before Erev Yomtov, just in case you might forget. So that's a little worse. But there he said you can make the Tanai. So even though in our case, Tuesday night, you're more probably that you made it Tuesday night, but if I put a reservation on it, if I put a Tanai to it, I limited it, I don't see a reason why you can't make it Tuesday night without a bracha. Make it Tanai, if you remember Wednesday, so you revoked, it self-destructed the Tuesday night's Eruv, and then you can make it Wednesday with the bracha. Now the question is, but what should I do? Lamaisa, we forgot. What is the practical halacha? And so the Mishnah says in Be'ah, beginning of the second paragraph, Tezvav, discusses the mitzvah of making it, but doesn't guide us what should be done if not. But here we have a Gemara in Be'ah, Daf Yud Zayin, where the Gemara says emphatically, if you didn't put an Eiruv Tavshilin, hu v'kimchai nesa. In other words, it's a double issa. Not only he can't cook his own food, but no one could cook for him his own food. In other words, you could say, I'll give it to my neighbor, he made an Eiruv Tavshilin. No. It's a double issa. The food is asa, and the person is asa. In fact, there's a big discussion, which is really based on the Mechaber. The Mechaber, based on the Torah, says, not only I can't cook my own food, I can't cook your food, even though you made an Eiruv Tavshilin. We'll say it's an Issa Gavra and Chefza. The person is also to cook, and the food is also to be cooked. So the Torah logically extends that I can't cook even your food, because I have an Issa to cook. So the Heintige Paiskim discuss, if you have in a hotel or any institution, if it's a yeshiva, whatever it is, that there are non-irreligious workers working in the kitchen, if they didn't make an Eiruv Tavshilin and they don't want to be included, they don't believe in it, they don't have nothing to do with it, they can't cook for Fruma Yidden, because they have an Issa to cook, because they don't have an Eiruv Tavshilin. But the point is, it's a very severe Issa. Hu v'kimchai nesa. So there's basically no room for error. In fact, we'll see the Mechaber, the end of our simon, says if someone didn't make an error, but he made a trick and he cooked anyhow, so the food's asa. Because again, Chazal were very protective. You'll ask me, why were they so protective? Zil basa taima. If we're trying to maintain Kedushas Shabbos, or Kedushas Yomtov, or both, we have to make sure that this plan works. Now, Kana ben Shoyal will say in the spirit of the day, I don't get this. According to one shita, you make an Eiruv Tavshilin for covered Shabbos. We want to make sure Shabbos is celebrated with the right oinig and the right simcha. So, you tell me make an Eiruv Tavshilin. So far, so good. But I forgot. I'm a barnash and I forgot. So what do you tell me now? Don't eat only cooked raw food, apples and tomatoes. I can't cook, someone can't cook for me. Where's the reasoning? Where's the svara? Where's the covered Shabbos? So the Ran in Daf Ches and Daf Eruv asked this question, and he says, Mutav shelo yisaden Shabbos achas v'yisaden Shabbos har. But basically what he says is, listen, if one Shabbos you're going to eat nothing but cold food, it's going to be a Shabbos that you're never going to forget, and it'll never happen again. But if we allow you to cook, this will happen again and again. It's a form of mutav sheichalo Shabbos achas. Let one Shabbos be not perfect, but at least it will send a eternal message. This won't happen again. I must tell you, this is a tremendous yesod in chinuch. And I'll give you an example where I use this. Many yeshivas have a policy: if a bacher wakes up late and misses the yeshiva minyan, he should not daven in the local, pardon me for saying, the local factory minyan that just davens one after the other quickly. Better daven in the yeshiva b'yechidus, mis tefillah b'tzibur. So someone once asked, he said, it's not right, how could the yeshiva tell me to daven b'yechidus? So I told him this ran, and I said, imagine, you woke up a half hour late, you roll into the local shtibel, that's express minyan, and you daven keherafayin, and then there's a yartzeit, so there's a very lavish tikkun, you have a very fancy breakfast, you come back to the yeshiva and they're still davening shachris. So you woke up a half hour late, you had a good breakfast, and you will never daven again in the minyan, because look, this works great. So we have to send a message: miss one tefillah b'tzibah, you'll feel terrible about it, hopefully. And that's really the Ran's approach to our sugya. Very often chinuch means punishing a boy, expelling him, sending him home. I bittul Torah, but it's the same yesod of the Ran. Mutav sheyechalel once, it won't happen again. But be that as it may, Chazal were very protective, and we know why. Zil basa time. Now the question is, so what do I do if I forgot lamaisa? So we're going to break it into two parts, because it really is two parts. The first part is when the situation is still salvageable, as we'll see, where you could still somehow concoct an Eiruv Tavshilin, and part two is when there's no Eiruv Tavshilin, what is the halach? So let's go slow. Here's the following scenario that Eruv will tell you happens every Erev Yomtov, usually. Someone right before they started Mincha, this year will be Eruv, hopefully we'll all be in shul gesundheit, Eruv, Pesach, Wednesday afternoon, and someone remembers, I don't believe it, I did not make an Eiruv Tavshilin. What should he do? So obviously there's no halacha that you have to do it in the morning, but the question is, he has to daven mincha. He's going to miss tefillah b'tzibah if he runs home. So says the Magen Avraham in Sif Katan Aleph, nearly someone's in shul, and obviously if he goes home to make the Eruv, he will miss tefillah b'tzibah. Let him right now give all of the food in his house to the fellow sitting next to him, who made an Eiruv Tavshilin. Now it's that fellow's food. So then even though he's asa to use that food, but it's the other friend's food, then we'll find an eitzah, the friend will cook for him, but then I'll find an eitzah. So it's a question of priorities. And Magen Avraham seems to feel Eiruv Tavshilin is very important, but so is Mincha Tefillah B'tzibur. But we could be Mekayim Shneihem. Daven Mincha like a mensch, but before Mincha, or after Mincha that is, give your food to someone else, so you'll have both worlds. You'll have Tefillah B'tzibur, and also your friend will be able to cook for you, because now it's his food, not your food. Again, you're not going to ask him to cook for you, that's no good, because Kim Chaynesa, you're going to be makna the food. Hopefully he's not going to keep it. But that's what the Magen Avraham says. So basically, we see from the Magen Avraham how important Tefillah B'tzibur is, but it's also important not to be stuck with a problem as Yom Tov sets in. And we'll soon see why the Magen Avraham says give your food to your neighbor, why not rely on the Rav's Eruv or a Tnai. We'll get back to that soon. But be that as it may, it's interesting, as the Minchas Yitzchak Chelik Zayin Lamed Vav points out, is mashma from the Magen Avraham that had there been no eitzah of giving the food to someone else, you should run home and miss tefillah b'tzibur. Why is that? And talking about the Ephraim and Tafreish Chafei Lamed Zayin Elef Lamata, he wonders why that is. Why isn't tefillah b'tzibur more important? But evidently, in this situation, Eiruv Tavshilin is more important. We can't let a Yid go into Yom Tov without an Eiruv Tavshilin. But one thing I will say, we see from the Magen Avraham, and that's Pashit, that we try to be Mekayim Shneim. Now, one thing I will say, if a person has the ability to go home before Mincha, he lives right next door, go home and come back. What about this Eitzah? I'll daven mincha, and right after mincha, I'll run home. Now, don't forget, between mincha and Ma'ariv, especially if you daven before the shkia, there's quite a long period of time, which is called in halacha bein hashmashos. So there's no halacha you have to do Eruv Tavshilin before mincha, you have to do Eruv Tavshilin before Yomtov sets in. So the question is a fundamental question: what is the status of bein hashmashos, which Wednesday twilight zone, in between mincha and when it's actually Yomtov mamish? So if you say b'mem adlikin, or you learn Mishnah Shabbos for that matter, the Mishnah in Shabbos Lamed Dalet says Safek Chashecha Ma'arv, and you're allowed to make an Eruv. Now, although Rashi does not spell out you're allowed to make an Eiruv Tavshilin, but the Mordechai in Siman Reish Tzadik says you're allowed to make an Eiruv Tavshilin during Bein HaShmashos. And that's the Psak of the Ramah in Sif Aleph. You're allowed to make an Eiruv Tavshilin when it's still Bein HaShmashos. Now, what exactly is Bein HaShmashos is, of course, a challenging question, because what is your shkia? Now, for those that go with the Goyin and a Makbid Gomer to daven before shkia, so you have a very short Bein HaShmashos period, kayadua. Those that go with Rabbeinu Tam and are not limited to the shkia on the calendar, they have the later shkia. So obviously the Bein HaShmashos is much later. So let's be very clear and, of course, politically correct. During your Bein HaShmashos, whatever that may be in other areas of halacha, you're allowed to make an Eiruv Tavshilin. I should say you should make an Eiruv Tavshilin, and don't rely on anything else, because the Eiruv Tavshilin is kosher when it's done during the Bein HaShmashos. That's a Mishnah, Rishonim, and Ramah. Now, the next question is much more challenging. I will make the Eiruv Tavshilin during Bein HaShmashos. Do I make a bracha on it? So this is an interesting question. Regarding making Eiruv Tavshilin Bein HaShmashos, Safek D'Rabbanan, you're allowed to do it. But to make a bracha, who asked you to make a bracha? Safek bracha is lahakol. Maybe because of the unknown of Bein HaShmashos, we'll treat it like a sveika. Safek bracha is lahakol. And that's indeed the shita of the Tshuvas Noida Basharim. I don't have the sefer. I'm makatayv to the sefer Eiruv Tavshilin HaOrach, who did a wonderful job in the whole sugya, and he quotes this Tshuvas Noida Basharim, which is quoted briefly in the Kaf HaChaim and the Chachma Shloima in Reish Samach Aleph, that Bein HaShmashos, you have to make an Eiruv Tavshilin, but no bracha. But the truth is, there's a big makam l'chalek. Because if there's a safek, then we say safek brachas lahakol. But here it's a vaday. The Mishnah, the Rishonim, the Ramah says you're allowed to make an Eiruv Tavshilin during Bein HaShmashos. So we're not in doubt, we're not groping in darkness, you're allowed to do it. And the emes, you want to be a little more aggressive. Every Eiruv Tavshilin, when it's 2-day Yomtov, is a safek. It's only really one day, and Eretz Yisrael is only one day. More so, the whole Yomtov Sheni is a safek. Don't forget, there's only one day Pesach. Eretz Yisrael, only one day Pesach. None of us, we have a sveika d'yoma. And look what we do because of a safek. We daven Yomtov, we make kiddush Yomtov, everything is Yomtov. Safek brachas. Teretz is, you do as if it's a vaday. And that's why the Avnei Nezer, Yadei Siman Shin Shamaches, Divrei Malkiel Aleph Zayin, Minchas Yitzchak Zayin Lamed Vav, and actually Mishtabur and Reish Samach Aleph Yud Aleph, and in the Be'er Halacha there, regarding Erev Chatzeros, that's done during Bein HaShmashos, the Mishtabura paskins, you make the Erev, and even make a bracha. So Avada, one should follow our advice, do it early, first thing in the morning, even Tuesday night if need be. But if it comes to it, and you have to do it Bein HaShmashos, we could rely on making the bracha like those shitas. Now, a question to think about, which is really a good reason again to do it first thing in the morning. You make the Eiruv Tavshilin after mincha Bein HaShmashos, very good. But for the wife, she already tzinded lich, if she tzinded lich early, and many women do tzinded lich erev Yomtov early, how could she use your Eiruv Tavshilin for her it's Yomtov? She made a shechiyanu on the neiros of Yomtov. And as we'll soon see, after Adlakas neiros, it's Yomtov. So you could make an Eiruv for yourself, but how does that kick in for your wife who is ready Yomtov dik? It's like the Eiruv Tavshilin was done on Yomtov. And as we'll soon see, the Bialacha and Sif Aleph discusses this question, and therefore, once again, it's advisable to make it early so the women could connect to that Eiruv Tavshilin. Now, getting back to our man stranded in shul, we said if he has an eitzah to run home before mincha, good. If not, run home after mincha. I should mention a simpler eitzah. If he has a neighbor of the shul that he knows, let him go to his house either before mincha or after mincha and ask him for a matana, shalem anas lahachzer. Hopefully he does it b'leiv shalom. Can you give me a tafshil and a matzah? Now, glad I should mention, if you're not baking on Erev Shabbos, you don't even need the matzah. The tafshil is the ikka. So get a tafshil, a kazayis, an egg, or a piece of gefilte fish. He'll give it to you b'leiv shalom and make the Erev in shul. Says the Mati Ephraim, you could make it in shul. There's no chiv, you have to make it in your house. It has to end up in your house. If the Erev is out of your tchum, it doesn't work, but you're not out of the tchum. So, Lamaisa, this is the Elef Lamatis Haysafa. It doesn't have to be done in your house. I should mention, if it comes up an Eiruv Tavshilin scenario on Shavuos or Sukkos, you probably could even approach the Shamish if the shul has food. And I must mention, if he has the jurisdiction to give it to you, because you're not allowed to steal for an Eiruv Tavshilin, so he has to give it to you with the rishus of the shul. So you could also make an Eruv in shul without running home. Of course, if you remembered in time before mincha, you could still call home and appoint one of the children or a shliach, and to make it on your behalf, and that will even be before the mincha. I should mention that there's a big tumult in the Paiskim, the Rav Shechnarach and others, if a shliach makes a bracha or not, and it's questionable if a bracha is said by a shliach. So once again, the best eight is do it right, make it early, and avoid sveikis. The next question, which is a kedai to mention, a person's in shul, but his children, bar mitzvah children that is, remember that the father to make an Eiruv Tavshilin. So I saw a tshuva Rabbi Yankel Blau, who's quoted in that sefer, Aruch HaShulchan, the Eiruv Tavshilin HaOruch, who says that they could do it without a specific minui. It's not geneva, and they can't sell their father's house with the chametz. You have to be a bailam, but for this, a family member has to make it. So the wife or the children, bar mitzvah children, that remember that the Eruv was not done, if it's still before Yomtov and before the woman sinded licht, they could make it on his behalf without a shlichus, even shaloi b'yediyosei. Now, a very challenging question is, a wife is home alone, all the men are in shul, and all the men forgot. She has a minig, she lights Erev Yomtov like Erev Shabbos. She's holding after halachos neiros. Can she make the Eiruv Tavshilin? So this is mamish the bialacha that we mentioned in Sif Aleph. Since she tzinded licht, and she made a shechianu, it's Yomtov. We all know this. You could light licht with a Tnai if it's a Shas Adchak, Shabbos licht, Yomtov licht, and then with a Tnai if it's Shas Adchak, and then travel. Why? Because you're not makabel Shabbos with a halachos neiros. But on Yomtov, when you make a shechianu, you can't make a Tnai, because shechianu is itzumei shel yom. So here we have a problem. If the woman tzinded licht, it's Yomtov. You can't make an Eiruv Tavshilin on Yomtov. She could tell someone else to do malacha. That's true regarding malacha. But Eiruv Tavshilin, there has to be an Eiruv Tavshilin made on Erev Yomtov, and for her it's Yomtov. And this is the Bialacha's concern. The only redeeming factor that he mentions is that it's not a communal Kabbalah Shabbos like it is Erev Shabbos, and all the women light 18, 15 minutes before Shkia. This is just Yechidim, because many women light at night. So maybe it's not Itzumei Shel Yom, and the Isha could have someone make an Eiruv Tavshilin on her behalf of her family. But it's certainly a not pashit whatsoever, and again, we are pushing to remember and not encounter sveikis. Interesting question. The husband is in shul and can't get home, and he can't get food. He decides to take a contemporary approach. He's going to make a long distance Eiruv Tavshilin. What do I mean? He'll pick up a siddur to feel good and connected, and say the following: the food that I pick up when I get home, the Eruv now is chal on that food, on the egg or fish or whatever, on the matzah. when I get home, I'm going to pick up a food, but the Eruv is chal right now. In other words, he's going to make it without holding on to the food. Says the Tiferes Yisrael in Perik Beis, Mishnah Aleph. He's not holding on to the food, but that's not ma'akiv, and he proves it ayin sham. You don't even know which food. He didn't designate food but forget to make it. He didn't do anything. So the Tiferes Yisrael says, Amar Dikalamdis, Yesh Breira. He's making it on a food which right now is undefined, but when he gets home after Ma'ariv, he'll pick up a food, the Mafreya, the Eruv is chal on that, when he made it in shul, even before mincha, because he could do it when he wants. You don't need more than a minute. So the Tiferes Yisrael says this revolutionary chiddush. You could make it long distance in shul without a phone, without an accomplice. Just make it on an undefined food. When you get home, you'll designate a food, and we'll rely on Yesh Breira, and rely on the side. You don't have to hold it to be Yoitze Eiruv Tavshilin. Now, Shlomo Zalman in Shmir Shabbos Memvav Kuv says, why do you have to come on to Breira? Why don't you make it on all the food in your house? You're going to eat food, but as long as you have a kazayis left, when Shabbos kicks in, you're Yoitze Eiruv Tavshilin. So make sure you leave over kazayis. What do you gain with that? You don't have to come on to Breira. It's chal on all the food in the house. So Shlomo Zalman says, apparently you're not supposed to eat the Eiruv Tavshilin, even though you have plenty of leeway, you have a full kitchen. But don't eat the Eiruv Tavshilin. So therefore you have to say on a specific, and you rely on the concept of Breira. Now, Lamaisa, this is the shita of the Tiferes Yisrael, and there are poskim that endorse this chiddush. However, and this could be a share for itself, of course, not going to get into it now, but it's known, the Chaim Sha'ol, the Chidah, in Siman Chavtes, is unusually, and this is uncharacteristically critical of this plan. He doesn't quote Tiferes Yisrael, but he writes someone that paskin to do this, and all he did was made a bracha levatala, and he was Ivan Issa Bishel from Yomtov to Shabbos, and Hayr Halacha b'fnei Rabbi Isav, and Ma'ra Chelke, Ma'mechua Gairalai. I mean, his Lashonis are very unusual. And he says, what are you talking about? You can't make it unless you're holding it. Look at the nussach of the Eruv. B'hadain Eruva. You have to hold it. Also, he says, our Magen Avram is the clearest proof that this doesn't work. Magen Avram is talking about someone's in shul, and he tries to find eitzes, go home, kin chelacherim. What's the problem? Why did the Magen Avram think of this brilliant eitzah? The Teretz says the Chidah emphatically, because it doesn't work. You have to hold on to it. So as you see, this eitzah is far from pashit. In fact, according to the Chidah, it's mamish bittul Torah and bittul zman to think about it. But I did see something interesting. Rav Vozna in Chelik Ches Kuf Chav Gimel and Chelik Tes Kuf Chav Tes suggests that if, which sometimes happens, the wife does her part and she prepares the Eruv, she puts a matzah and an egg, and the husband will do it Wednesday afternoon. So it was designated, and the husband knows about it, but he forgot to do it. So Segar Nishvert, if there's an Eruv, if there was no bracha or nussach that said, I mean the bracha is not makna, but the nussach is. So then perhaps it could be more mekel, because you're going to have to come on to a long distance without holding it, but at least it's designated, so you don't have to avoid. So you could avoid the breira scenario. Okay, but again, as you see, the eitz is far from pashit. Let's do things right. And now we begin part 2. Yomtov has already set in, and the person is standing on Wednesday night this year with no Eruv, and he made it to Beferish Gemara. Hu v'kim chaynesa. He's not allowed to cook for anybody, and he or nobody could cook his food. Not a very good predicament to be in on Yomtov. So the best eitzah, and again I say best, I really say the least problematic, because there's no best eitzah. The best eitzah is follow the halacha. But the least problematic eitzah is based on a radical chiddush of the Gemara, I could say. Because let's not forget, let's talk about this year, which is a good mashal. We have Yomtov Thursday and Friday. But the truth is, there's only one day Yomtov for Pesach. Look in Eretz Yisrael. Novos, we have a suffix which day is the real Yomtiv, and even though today we are certain, but we keep it al Tzminig Aviseinu B'Yadeinu, al Tzveika D'Yayma, we all know that. Oh, so let's play with that suffix. And let us stand Thursday, okay? And let us do the following. Thursday is the first day Pesach, after a very uplifting Seder. We will take in Eiruv Tavshilin, we'll soon see which food to use, and say, if today is Yomtiv, so tomorrow is Chol HaMoed. So I could cook on Chol HaMoed for Shabbos, just like doing Eretz Yisrael without an Eruv. If Thursday is Yomtiv, so Friday is Chol HaMoed. So you don't need an Eiruv Tavshilin. You're not to cook Chol HaMoed for Shabbos, like it's done in Eretz Yisrael. Wait, maybe today is Erev Yomtiv, and really the real day Yomtiv is Friday. So I'm on schedule. I'm doing it on Erev Yomtiv. And that's a Gemara in Beya in two places, Daf Vav, Amud Aleph, and Daf Yud Zayin. That the Gemara says, Masna Adam Eiruv Tavshilin Yomtiv L'Chaveroi. Rashi explains, just like I told you. And this is quoted in the Shulchan Aruch in Sif Chav Beis. Now this sounds good, but the obvious problem that really should haunt us is we are so careful with Yomtiv Sheni. Shouldn't come at any reflection, any zilzul koldu. So where do we take the liberty of getting up and saying, if today is Chayil? Imagine he made a whole Seder, he's going to shul, he's davening, and if today is Chayil, or if tomorrow is Chayil. We don't even think about those things, but to verbalize it and base an Eruv on it, how do you do that? The Gemara says it. The Gemara is also very firm. So if you look in the Torah, in the end of the next siman, Tov Kuf Chav Ches, he quotes the Rambam in Vav Yudalid, where the Rambam says that this Gemara of Tnai only applied in times of the Mishnah or before, when they actually had a Sveika D'Yayma. A real Sveika D'Yayma, before the calendars were established. Oh, that's taka, a real Sveika D'Yayma. Then you could use it in this situation. But today that we do it b'Teiras Vadai, you can't make a Tanai regarding Eruv. And the Beis Yosef adds, even regarding Eiruv Tavshilin. So besides the problem of the zilzul in making the Tanai, according to the Rambam, and that's the opinion of some Svardish Gedolah, the Birkei Yosef and Sif Yud, the Kaf HaChaim, Kuf Lamed Hey, and Kuf HaMalef quote this, we should not make an Eiruv Tavshilin with the Tanai in our times. Okay, most Paiskim don't agree to the Rambam, and the Shulchan Aruch obviously didn't, and basically we have one Eitzah when it's a 2-day Yomtiv like this one, Thursday, Friday, going into Shabbos. Very often, the Mashal Shvuis, you have Yomtiv on Friday and Shabbos, and you need the same Eiruv Tavshilin. But let's be clear, in that scenario, this tonight doesn't work. Because Friday is Vada Yomtiv, for all. There's no Sveika. So basically, you can't use the Tanai in this case, just like in Eretz Yisrael they don't use it. Also, as the Gemara says, the Shulchan Aruch quotes this, on 2 days Rosh Hashanah, we don't make a Tanai. Because we, L'chumra, consider 2 days of Rosh Hashanah as one long day, and one long day there's no Tanai. So as you see, the whole Tanai only works on a 2-day Yom Tov that precedes Shabbos, like this year Pesach, Thursday, Friday, and Shabbos. But even that's not Pashit. The Rambam doesn't agree. It only works when there's 2 days before Shabbos, Friday and Shabbos, it won't work. And also it doesn't work on Rosh Hashanah. Now what's the exact procedure? So let's put this in perspective. A person forgot to do it on Wednesday. Thursday he remembered to do it, and he remembers the Gemara, and he remembers the Shulchan Aruch, and he makes the Tanai. So here we have another problem. The Torah, Beis Yosef, quote Rabbeinu Ephraim, that it only works if you have food that you cooked on Wednesday, Erev Yomtiv. Because that's really Erev Tavshilin is all about. But how do you stand up on Thursday and take food that you cooked on Thursday for an Erev Tavshilin? It's just too late. So according to Rabbeinu Ephraim, you have to have leftover food that you cooked on Wednesday, Erev Yomtiv, and on that make an Erev Tavshilin. If you have no other food left from Wednesday, food cooked on Thursday is ineffective. However, the Shulchan Aruch, although The Shulchan Aruch paskins like this. The Mishnah Berurah and Sivkot Nayin Hay says, no, we paskin like the other shita. You could even use food that was made on Thursday, on today, Yomtov. You cooked on Yomtov for Yomtov. Zok derech HaShulchan and Simon Lamed Vav. What's taka the cheshbon? He says, beautiful. Light your Tanai that you're counting on. Why can I make an Eiruv Tavshilin today? Because maybe today is Erev Yomtov. So what's wrong with cooking on Erev Yomtov, an Eiruv Tavshilin? So it comes out that this is a problem. Not all the Shainim agree, but at least Mishnah Berurah paskins that if you do remember to make the Eiruv Tavshilin on Thursday with the Tanai, you could use food that was made even on Thursday. But for a reason I can't get into now, but to make special food cover the Eiruv Tavshilin is problematic. The question is if that's really mutter or not, ayin in the poskim. But clearly, it's preferable to take food that you cooked on Erev Yomtiv. If that's not available, even food that was cooked today, l'tzarech Yomtiv, you're allowed to use it for the Eiruv Tavshilin. Question. I'm so far, okay, it's a little b'diavad, but I'm doing well. I remembered on Thursday, and I know the sugya, and I have the food. Do I have to verbalize this tonight? Do I have to just pick it up and don't talk? Just make the Eruv and behadein Eruva, or should I say, well, if today is chayil, then this is my Eruv. If it's not, tomorrow's is chayil, then I don't need it. Do you have to make the Tanai, or better, the less you talk, the better you are? So the emes is, why stress Zilzal Yomtiv? Why stress and say, if today's Yomtiv, tomorrow's Yomtiv? Why don't you just do it and rely on the understanding of it, the mechanics, without verbalizing? The Gemara says masna. Maybe the Gemara means masna because that's the way it works. That's the logistics of it, but not that you should actually spell it out. But there's a sheet of the Mata Yehuda on our Simon Tovkov Chozayin, this Yehuda Ayash. He has a beautiful arichas, and he says, no, you have to actually make a Tanai, because if you don't make a Tanai, the Eruv is invalid. But listen to one of his rayas. It's magnificent how the Torah is geknipt and gebinden. He says, I have a raya from a Rambam that you have to make the Tanai. Now, which Rambam? The Rambam that we mentioned earlier, now listen to Zeinfeld. The Rambam that we mentioned earlier, that you can't make an Eiruv Tavshilin Bizman Hazeh, because it's a Zilzal Yomtiv. Frag the Yehuda Ayash, if you're not going to verbalize it, what's the problem? The teretz is you have to say it. If today's Yomtiv, today's not Yomtiv, and therefore the Rambam correctly assumed that you can't do it Bizman Hazeh. He has another raya, but his shita is emphatically that you must actually make the Tanai liikuva, and he's followed by other Svarish Apoiskin, the Machzik Bracha, the Chidah, and Sivka and Tes, the Kafachayim, and Kuf Lamed Zayin. That if you have to come on to this Tanai, you have to actually spell out the Tanai. But Re'ez Apella, the beautiful Torah that was Zaycha to learn. The Rabbeinu Peretz was one of the Rishonim, which in the Avav says clearly, you make an Eruv, and you don't have to make a Tanai. Well, soon see, he also says, you don't make a bracha, so you don't make a bracha, you don't make a Tanai. Now, as the Eruv Tavshilin Aruch points out, the Mata Yehuda didn't have Rabbeinu Peretz, these are printed much later, but you have a Rishon that says you don't make a Tanai, so you don't have to make a Tanai. But the question is, what do you do with the Tanai? Are you going to say it's understood? So let me tell you something magnificent. The Tzlach, which is the Noid Yehuda, in the Sefer Tzlach and Bei Yud Zayin, wonders why his lashon is ani tam toirach zelamo. What do you have to make a Tanai if today, tomorrow? Just do it. So he has a einfall that only Noid Yehuda could think of. And he says the halacha, there are shittas that hold you can make an Eiruv Tavshilin on one Yomtiv for the next one, as long as it survives. So he says, if you're not going to make the Tanai, so maybe it's going to go on the next Yomtiv. Let's say Pesach, Rosh Hashanah to Pesach, usually, Rosh Hashanah till Sukkot usually both need Eiruv Tavshilin. So you're going to make a Tanai. Well, Rosh Hashanah you can't make a Tanai. But whenever you have a Yomtiv that coincide, one after the other, you're going to make it on this Yomtiv, let's say on Sukkot, and if it don't need it, it's going to end up going on Shavuos by default. So therefore you have to limit that. Say, no, I don't want that to happen. Now why don't you want that to happen? Because you're making an Eruv on Yomtov for no reason. For Shavuos, felt the size, do it then. So therefore we have to limit it. It's nothing. And that's why the Tנאי is needed. Very mechudesh the kipshat, we have to make it self-destruct if it's not needed. Rab Shlomo Klug in the Alpha Shlomo Simon Shin Mem Hey, he quotes this slach, and he says, V'zeh einei, I don't think that's the right answer. And he has another novel approach. And he wants to say that really, if you just make an Eiruv Tavshilin on Yomtov, that's the biggest zilzul. It's like someone sits in the Sukkah Shmini Atzeres, which the Gemara says to do it, but he make a bracha, oh, that's no good. He says, if you're going to make an Eiruv Tavshilin on Yomtov, it's the biggest zilzul. But if you preface your Eiruv Tavshilin with a Tנאי, oh, so then you are careful. If today is Yomtov, so then I don't need it. If today is Chayil, then I'm on schedule. So he says the Tנאי is made to avoid zilzul Yomtov. Because otherwise you have a zilzul Yomtov, you're getting up on Yomtov, you're making an Eiruv Tavshilin. What's going on here? So by making an Eruv with a Tנאי, you are preventing the zilzul Yomtov. So I saw a very thorough tshuva in the Knei Baisim, Chelik Bey, Simon Yud Ches. He puts this all together and he says, listen, like the tzlach and the Reb Shlomo Kluger, the reason for the Tנאי is sort of zaitig for different reasons. Zilzul Yomtov, it might work for Shavuos. But no one says you need a Tנאי because the Tנאי is ma'akiv. So he's comfortable to conclude that if you did make a Tנאי, avada the Eruv is chal, as long as you made the Eruv properly, with the badein eruva, and the Tנאי is not ma'akiv, deloi kemaskonas mate Yehud. The next question, which is a challenging question, so I'm doing fine. I have to make an Eiruv Tavshilin with the Tנאי, I don't have to verbalize it. Should I make a bracha? Avad, you have to say the badein eruva, you have to make it work, but do you make a bracha? So we would think safek brachas lahakol. After all, it's only a safek. It's not a vade, it's one of the two. Maybe we will say, wait a minute, this is not my idea to make a Tנאי. The Gemara says it. The Gemara sanctions it, the Mechaber brings it. Why did the Gemara say no bracha? Like we find regarding Shmini Atzeres, Hilchasa Yesuvi Yasvina Bruchalei Mevarchina. You'll say safek. So the same lamdas that we mentioned earlier. Every Eiruv Tavshilin is a safek. Every Yomtov Sheni is a safek. So as long as this is a takanas chazal to make an Eiruv Tavshilin on one day Yomtov to the next with a Tנאי mechanics, so don't be nervous. And that's definitely why the Magen Avram in Sivkot and Chaf Hey says, when you make an Eiruv Tavshilin with a Tנאי, u'mevarech tchila. And that's followed by an impressive list of Achreinim, El Yerabah, Shulchan Acharav, Chayodam, Kitzah, Mishnah Brura, Sivkot Nayin Dalid, all say if you make a Eiruv Tavshilin b'Tנאי on Yomtov Rishon, you could even take the liberty of making a bracha. Now, this sounds great, but we can't forget we saw Rabbeinu Peretz, the Avav and Beya, that says beferish, you don't have to make a Tנאי, and there's no bracha. Obviously, he's concerned about a safek. Every Eiruv Tavshilin. So here there's a golden alumnus. Every Eiruv Tavshilin, I'm making it before any safek. I'm making it Erev Yomtov, like Chazal said. Here, it's already la'achash and neiros safek. More so, here, it's really that I'm certain that this 50% chance that this Erev is nothing. Imagine, I'm making a bracha on Thursday, and part of my plan is, if today is Yomtov, so I don't need an Eiruv Tavshilin. So I'm basically self-destructing the Erev mi'ikara. That's worse than a regular Eiruv Tavshilin, that I'm just following the system. Also, as the Achreinim point out, to make a Tנאי, say a Tנאי, and then make a bracha is almost a tar to the sasri minei ubei. You're recognizing your inability to know what's happening, and you're making a bracha on it. Now, there's a beautiful discussion that Seifa said in Aruch, the Erev Tavshilin HaAruch, but that's basically the 2 days, and although the Mishnah Berurah holds to make a bracha, but there are Gedolei Achreinim the Yavitz, Rabbi Kiva Ega on the page, the Aruch HaShulchan, all say you can make a bracha, but not make, you can make an Eiruv Tavshilin b'Tnai, but mitzad the bracha, avoid it and rely on suffix brachis lahakol. A very challenging situation is when you can't make a Tnai. For example, if Yomtov is Friday and Shabbos, if it's Rosh Hashanah, and generally in Eretz Yisrael, with this one day Yomtov, you don't have the 2-day Yomtov leeway. So here we come to another emergency hatch, so to speak, and that's the Gemara Be'ed Af Tezayin Amud Beis, where the Gemara says that basically the Rav of a city can make an Eiruv Tavshilin that includes the entire city. In fact, the Gemara recounts a number of Amarayim that announced, I made an Eiruv Tavshilin for the entire city. Now, what does that mean? That means very pashut. We said earlier you can include family members into the Eruv. Well, you can include anybody into the Eruv as long as you add das for that person. So the Gemara is saying that a responsible Rav, Mr. Brewer says it should be done, should make an Eruv for the entire city. Now, what do you gain with that? For the forgetful person, he has an Eruv, the Rav's Eruv. Now, of course, me and you should make an Eruv, even though the Rav already made the Eruv in the morning and included the entire city. That's for forgetting people, but I'm not forgetting. I'm doing Kanas Chazal, I'm doing a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. I'm making a bracha on it. But if someone forgot and now he's stuck and he can't make it tonight, he can't do anything, Zok the Mechaba, based on the Gemara, and this is the Mechaba and Siv Zayin, mitzvah al god la'ir la'arv al kol b'nei iroi, so they could be saimech on if someone was an oinus. Now I must add that the Gemara tells a fascinating story, because it's fascinating because there's so much that we could delve upon the story, but we're going to leave it for a different time. But basically, the Gemara says in Daf Zayin Amud Beis that there was a person that was very depressed. So Mar Shmuel said, what's your problem? So he said, I forgot to make an Eruv. Because don't worry, you could rely on my Eruv. Okay. Next year, again he saw the fellow depressed. He goes, what's the matter? He goes, I forgot to make an Eruv. He goes, no, you can't rely on me. If you forgot, again, you're a paisheya, and in halacha, 2 strikes and you're out, not 3. So here we see the pashtas of the Gemara. You're allowed to rely on the Rav, but only once. Twice you can't. But the Gemara does not say actually twice dafka. The Gemara calls it a paisheya. What's interesting is the Gemara early in Daf Tezvav Amud Beis, very yisoidistic. The Gemara says, "V'shilchu manais le'ein achain." Zok the Gemara. That means you make you send food to someone that didn't make an Eiruv Tavshilin. For Gemara, what do you mean? If you didn't make an Eiruv Tavshilin, you can't send them food. Hu v'kim chaynis neser. You could only send him food if he was an oinus. But someone that was supposed to make an Eruv and didn't, he's a paisheya. And the Rosh in Siman Beis and in Siman Gimel, and the Mechab and Siv Zayin passes like this, says someone initially is not allowed to rely on the Eruv of the Rav. That is a pshia. You can't say, let me rely on the Rav. Why do I have to be so worried? That doesn't work. It's only an oinus, or as we'll soon see, if the Eruv was lost or eaten, consumed, there's nothing left, so then it's no good. But the Mechaber Shita is that you can't rely on the Rav unless it's an Einus. The truth is, the biggest raya is, what's the whole sugya of forgetting to make an Eiruv Tavshilin? We have to have a whole siman, 9 sifim in siman Tav Kov Zayin. Rely on the Rav. So according to the Mechaber, it's very geshmak. It's only when there's no other Eitzah. If there's an Eitzah, make the Eitzah. Mr. Brewer does quote Makilim and Sivkot and Chavav, but he definitely says Lechatchila, one only relies on the Rav when there is no Eitzah. Now, Lamaisa, we didn't see Beferish in the Gemara, and we don't see in Shulchan Aruch Beferish. You'll learn, you're not going to find it, that twice you're out. But Mr. Brewer does say it is Sivkot and Chav Beis, and the source is our Gemara about the fellow that forgot twice. But it's not because twice is necessary. It's because forgetting twice is indicative of pshia. But if someone was peshia the first time, he can't rely on the Rav's Eruv, like we saw from the Gemara. Now, what's interesting is the Shvus Yankov and Chelik Beis Kuf Mem Ches the Aruch HaShulchan on his own and Simon and Sif Yud Ches says The forgetting twice was in those days that people were more mesuda, more meyushiv, and if they forgot twice, that's a very bad sign of someone that's disconnected from his Yiddishkeit. And that's a Peshia. Today, with the Tirdus Hagolas and all the life in the fast lane and the hustle bustle of city life, a person that forgets even twice is not a Peshia. Very radical Chiddush. But Mr. Mura doesn't mention this, but I could say that if someone forgot twice, even if you're machmir, it's only if you forgot twice 2 Yomim Tovim in a row. In other words, if you had to make an Eiruv Tavshilin this Yomtiv and the next Yomtiv, and he forgot both. But if he forgot only one Yomtiv, then he made, and then he forgot again, a sandwich, forgetting, making and forgetting, then it's okay. It's only forgetting twice in a row. What's beautiful, the Chayyadam in Kuf Beis Sif Zayin, he says no, even if you have twice forgetting, even not one after the other. And he brings a raya from our Gemara that we mentioned, where this fellow was depressed that he couldn't rely on the Rav's Eruv. Frag the Chayyadam, why couldn't he rely on the Rav's Eruv? So he says that Rashi says it was Rosh Hashanah. He had a suffix, maybe like the sheet in the Gemara, you can make it Tanai on Rosh Hashanah. Now he makes a beautiful cheshbon. Rosh Hashanah one year, Rosh Hashanah the next year. So he forgot the next year. But there's always a Yomtov in between that he made an Eiruv Tavshilin. And yet Rashi stresses he forgot next year Rosh Hashanah. Is a raya if you forget twice, even if it's not consecutive, you have to realize that that's considered a pshia. Now he does say it's not a raya, maybe the Shana does not mean a full year later, maybe he forgot Pesach and then Rosh Hashanah. But I think we could say the following. Since some say today if you forget even twice is not a pshia, we'll rely on the Makilim regarding one thing for sure. If someone forgot, the next Yomtov he made, and then if he forgot, we can rely on the Haskamas HaPoiskim, and even the Chayyad that's Machma, he writes V'tzorachin. Now, Lamaisa, the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch and Sif Chaf does provide 2 other eitzes for a forgetting person. One is, which you saw in the Magen Avram, Makna Kimcha Lacherim, which means I forgot, and I have no other eitzah, I give all my food to my neighbor, and that's his. Not do it for me. That's also because Kimcha Nesa. I give it to him a matana, and if he's kind enough to cook for me, he becomes my chef, I'm okay. If you're not comfortable in asking a neighbor to do it, so then Shulchan Aruch says, if you don't want to do that, then there's a special heter to cook the bare minimum that you need for Shabbos. Now this is very limited. Bare minimum means 1 challah. You need lechem mishnah? Well, too bad, no lechem mishnah this Shabbos. You forgot only what you need. So obviously both eitzes are very impractical. One is impractical, you have to give a neighbor to cook all the Shabbos food. And number 2, to only cook a bare minimum. But one thing we'll say, the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Sif Chaf Aleph says another eitzah, if you cook on Friday, l'kavod Yomtiv, and then the leftovers you could use for Shabbos. You could even cook generously. That's also a heter. Now, Achrein Chav, I just want to make some priorities here. All agree, let's be clear, all agree that the best eitz is to get an Eiruv Tavshilin being made. Whether it's doing it bein hashmashos, whether it's family, shliach, wife, or even being saimach on the Tferes Yisrael and doing a long distance. But all agree if you can make an Eiruv Tavshilin, that's best. Once it's Yomtiv, and you can't make an Eiruv Tavshilin, or you can't make a Tanai, so then we have an important Chacham Tzvi. The Chacham Tzvi says that if you could make a Tanai, or rely on the Rav, what's better? Make a Tanai. He brings a raya from the Gemara, Ayin Sham, Rukiva'ega, both in Shas and in Shulchan Aruch, sends us there. What's the Svara? Beautiful. Because Lamaisa Tanai, I'm making an Eruv. The Rav, I only rely on if I have no other choice. And the Ber Moshe points out in Chelik Daled Memvav that this is Rishonim like the Rukiva'ega, like the Chacham Tzvi. That a Tanai is better than relying on the Rav. The Beis Meir also says this. I should mention the Svar the Shigadoilim, who are not excited about a Tanai, they hold that a Tanai is not a good idea, so they would say that the Rav is better. But in priorities, the Tanai is better than relying on the Rav. Which is better? relying on the Rav or cook extra. So that the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkot and Samach Vav says Beferish that rely on the Rav is better than cooking extra on Friday for Shabbos. It's better to rely on the Rav or be makna kimcha lacherim. So here we have the last part of this beautiful puzzle, and that's our Magen Avraham that we began with. The Magen Avraham says if you're in shul and you can't make an Eiruv Tavshilin, so if you can't run home, daven mincha and be makna kimcha lacherim. Why didn't the Magen Avraham say rely on the Rav? So obviously, if you have an Eitzah, you can't rely on the Rav. That would be the Pashtus. But says the Mata Ephraim, that's not true. Because if Lamaisa you have a Rav, and there's no other Eitzah to make an Eruv, that's better. The Magen Avraham is talking about when there's no Rav available. So as you see, there is no perfect Eitzah. The best Eitzah is to be focused. Remember, do it either Tuesday night or Wednesday. And taka, this should be a lichtige Shabbos and a lichtige Yomtov for all Klal Yisrael gesund to hate. Let us just review basically what we learned today. There's an important chiyuv of Eiruv Tavshilin. The two reasons, either covered Shabbos or covered Yomtov. Chazal very much protected the sanctity of both Shabbos and Yomtov. It only helps, and Eiruv Tavshilin only works to cook on Erev Shabbos for Shabbos, not on Thursday for Shabbos. A young couple could rely on the family that they're staying by to be included, but every family should have their own Eiruv Tavshilin, because you need it for neiros or for cooking, certainly for even Isur D'Rabbanan. Do it first thing in the morning, even before davening. You can do it Leil Erev Yomtiv. If someone forgot, Hu v'kim chaynesa, a very all-encompassing Issa, Mutiv, Sheichal Shabbos Achas is the theory behind it. When someone's in shul, about daven mincha, he could do it either before mincha or after mincha, as long as it's bein hashmashos. He could even do it in shul if someone gives him the necessary tafshil, or you could send a shliach to do it, or a child or wife could do it at home without a specific minui shlichos. The wife, after halachos neiros, is problematic, as we explained. Long distance Eiruv Tavshilin without holding it or designating it is problematic, I should say. Some are mekel, some are machmir, but it is an option that exists. The first day, if you forgot, and there's 2-day Yomtiv, you could make the first day b'tnai. We don't do it on Rosh Hashanah. We don't do it on Erev Shabbos, if that's the first day. The Rambam sheet is not to use it, but the Gedolei Poskim are soymech on it. You could use any food that was cooked for this tnai, whether it's Erev Wednesday or Thursday, any food that was cooked, you could use it. The tnai is not ma'akiv, l'halacha. We could say you could even make a bracha. Although Poskim are machmir, but our Poskim, Mishnah Berurah is our Posik, Magen Avraham is our Posik, you could even make a bracha. If you don't want to make a bracha, so do without a bracha, but the nussach should be said. If there is no pshia, and you didn't initially rely on the Rav, you can rely on the Rav. I should have mentioned if the Eruv was lost or eaten. Someone made an egg and put it in the refrigerator, and now someone ate it. So it doesn't help making Erev Yomtov. It has to be there for Erev Shabbos. Rely on the Rav. If you forgot twice in a row, the Welt is chayshish, lahachmir, you can't rely on the Rav, even though there are mekilim, but it has to be twice in a row. That's when the Issa is in effect. If you give your food to someone else and he's kind enough to work for you, fine. You're allowed to cook extra on Friday, l'kavod Shabbos. You're allowed to cook a bare minimum, but it's literally a bare minimum. The best eitzah is to get an Eiruv Tavshilin that's either made. A Tnai is better than the Rav. The Rav is better than cooking extra food. And the Ikid, we should make the Eiruv Tavshilin and have a lichtige Shabbos and a lichtige Yom.